I'm Colonel Jason Fettig, and I'm thrilled to be here with Dutch composer and conductor Johan de Meij, who will be joining the President's Own here soon to guest conduct a very special performance of his own Symphony No. 1, The Lord of the Rings. Johan, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thank you. I'm honored and thrilled to be with this amazing bunch of musicians and my favorite band in the world, to be honest.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You may know that the President's Own is actually celebrating a pretty significant anniversary this year. It's our 220th anniversary,
Yes.
and we're celebrating all year with special concerts like this one. And it's also a special anniversary for you because this is the 30th anniversary of the finishing of the composition of your Symphony No. 1, The Lord of the Rings, which was inspired, of course, by the great J.R.R. Tolkien books. And a few years after you finished composing the piece, you actually had an interaction with the Marine Band in 1990 and our former director, Colonel John Bourgeois.
Yes.
And I think it was the first American performance of the symphony at that point.
It was. It was also the presentation of the Sutler Award. Mm-hmm. Because right after the premiere, which was in March 15th, 1988 in Brussels, with the band of the Royal Belgium Guides, the Gidsen as we call them, and I did submit the piece for the Sutler Award, and to my great surprise and joy, I won the first prize. So I was invited to come to the Meyerhof and the Kennedy Center for 2 concerts, where I received the medal and the honor and from John Bourgeois. But I've known Colonel John Bourgeois since 1981.
Wow.
We met at the first WASB conference in Manchester, so we go way back, and he's become a very, very dear friend. So
right, you continue to be close to this day.
Yeah, I'm actually going to see him tonight. So,
so you finished the piece, the symphony, in 1988, but it actually started in 1984. So you composed it over the period of about 4 years.
Actually, more. I started thinking about the whole thing in 1982.
Okay.
And I started reading the books. It's actually reversed. It was not that I was a big Tolkien fan and I always wanted to write a piece about it. No, I wanted to write a substantial work for wind orchestra. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't thinking of a symphony in the beginning. But through a friend, he gave me the idea. I was looking for a subject, and so we were talking about it, and he said, "Have you thought about Tolkien, The Lord of the Rings?" And I went, "Oh, yeah. I've heard about it." So with that in mind, I started reading the books with the only goal to think about a piece. And within 4 or 5 chapters, I thought, this is it.
Did the music come to you right away as you were reading the books?
No.
These themes or anything? No,
not at all.
So it had to ferment for a little bit.
I'm a kind of a composer who really has to sit down and note for note come up with music. You know, it's just not in my head like Mozart. He only had to write it down. It was very inspiring by reading the books, and as you know, the symphony is actually only about the first of the 3 books.
Yeah.
A Journey in the Dark, Lothlorien. Mm-hmm. So movement 2 and 4 are actually very narrative. They actually follow the chapter of the book.
Right.
Whereas Gandalf and Gollum and Hobbits 1, 3, and 5 are more
like character pieces.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you started writing and composing, how did it take shape? What came first? What was the first movement that came to you?
Movement 4.
Which is
the Journey in the Dark.
The Journey in the Dark. That's interesting that was the very first movement that emerged. And why did that come to you first?
Because I was reading that chapter. You know, it's called Journey in the Dark, and I divided it into the Mines of Moria and the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, and it's spooky. You know, the companion led by Gandalf. They go through the Mines of Moria, and there's all those sort of claustrophobic feeling and just water dripping and little rocks are falling, and then the orcs are coming, you know, and there's this big fight with the Balrog and Gandalf where he falls off the bridge of Khazad-dûm, you know, this big dramatic, this is the biggest dramatic moment in the symphony, in the 4th movement. That's why I put it there, you know, not in the beginning. So there's this big curve in the symphony where the most dramatic moment is that. It's 108, I think, in the score.
It's the climax of the books, really, the climax, in some ways the climax of the symphony there.
So only the very end of the piece, it's called the Grey Havens, the last 24 bars or something, is the end of the book.
Right. Of
the 3rd book, you know, where Gandalf and Frodo sail off on a ship into nowhere. Nobody knows where they go.
Right.
Very symbolic. And and that's why the symphony ends so peaceful and soft, you know. Not a big ending, no, it's C major,
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did the rest of the symphony evolve over those years? Which movements came next, and how did it end? What was the last thing that you composed before it was ready for premiere?
So I did movement 4. I started with that because that was the chapter that inspired me right away. I thought, oh my God, this is great. So this was 84 when I penned down the first notes on paper, you know. Computer programs weren't there yet.
Right.
Or very, very primitive.
So the whole thing was written by hand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything. Score and parts.
Yeah. So the fourth movement came first. How did the rest of the movements emerge, and how did you finish writing the piece?
So I wrote the fourth movement in 84. And then I did other things. And, you know, there was no deadline. It was not a commission. So there was no pressure. I sort of started to doing it as a hobby. Then in 86, I went to see the same group who premiered the Gidsen in Belgium. Mm-hmm. For another reason. I just finished the arrangement of Romeo and Juliet, the Prokofiev ballet suite.
Yes.
And they were going to try it out and play it. And I sort of shyly asked Norbert Nozy, the former conductor, I said, I have one movement finished of a large piece. Would you be so kind to read it through? He said, oh, of course, yeah. So we handed it out, and they side read it.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. I'm like, oh, this sounds so much better than I expected. And then I started writing like a madman. So 86, and it was ready the next year. So I actually went 4, and then I started with Gandalf, Lothlorien, Gollum, Hobbits.
Then kind of in order.
Yes,
and then
in order,
finished the last thing you composed was the end of the symphony.
Hobbits, yes,
yeah.
correct, yeah.
So, and this was premiered in 1988. And
yes.
What was your response to hearing the whole symphony live for the very first time after you spent all these years at your piano writing this score by hand?
Yeah, oh God, it's an evening I will never forget. Because I heard parts of it during rehearsals, but a little bit of this movement, and I wasn't there when they rehearsed everything. But that night, March 15, it was the first time I heard it from beginning to the end.
Yeah.
And I was...
And this symphony really, in many ways, you were a trombone player in your previous musical life and then went to composing and conducting, but this symphony really, in many ways, launched your compositional career.
Yeah,
things started to
it was
really
my very first piece, but from one day to the other, I was a composer.
Yeah.
It was recorded by the Belgian radio.
Mm-hmm.
I still have that recording, actually. It's incredible. It's very good.
That's great. And then you also did a version for orchestra at some point.
Oh yeah, 12 years later.
And that was recorded by
the London Symphony Orchestra. Yeah.
And so this work has really, at this point, it's become kind of an old warhorse of the symphonic band repertoire. It's one of our major symphonies and a cornerstone in the repertoire. And it won, you mentioned earlier, it won the Sudler Award. It won several awards, in fact, after its composition. And that really brought it to the attention of many ensembles throughout the world.
Yeah, it sounds a little dramatic, but the piece completely changed my life in a very nice way. You know, it started to make me traveling as a guest conductor, and I've been on 4 continents with the piece and a countless amount of performances I conducted.
I was going to ask you how many times you think the piece has been performed and how many times have you conducted it at this point, 30 years later?
I didn't keep track, but it's in the hundreds. Wow. And the amount of performance must be in the thousands, yeah.
That experience you had in 1990 when you were here with the performance by the Marine Band in America after the Sudler Award, what do you remember about that first experience with the Marine Band?
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, it's like sinking into a warm bath, you know, the beautiful sound and the precision of this group is absolutely amazing. And I'm so thrilled to work with them for this concert in College Park. I can't wait to work with those amazing musicians, and I don't know what I'm going to say. I mean, they're so good. I hope to make a mistake.
No, we're excited about it too. You know, one of the great joys with performing new music is to have opportunity to collaborate with composers.
Yes.
And for a piece like this that's kind of taken on a life of its own, and it's evolved and become such an important part of our repertoire, to be able to not only hear from you when we perform this, but to be able to work directly with you on the podium, I think is going to be a special experience for our musicians and for our patrons who get a chance to be introduced to this music if they don't know it already, and to have it be brought to life by the creator himself. Yeah. So this is exciting. Is there anything in particular you're looking forward to about this upcoming collaboration with the Marine Band?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about it, of course, you know. It's, my God, being in front of such a group, but I'm sure they'll be very kind, and it will be an incredible experience for all of us, I hope.
Well, we're very much looking forward to it, and looking forward to welcoming you back to the podium of the President's Own for this very special anniversary of this wonderful piece. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Johan.
Jason.
Appreciate it.